Tomorrow night's the Congressional Baseball Game. Good luck.
Thank you.
I do go. I love it. Do you go?
Oh, every year.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I used to play in it before I got old.
You're a young guy.
Yeah.
No, the rule is if you're under 50, you have to play, and if you're under 40, you have to play well.
Yeah.
That's the rule.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to The Fly-In, a podcast brought to you by the New Dems. I'm Greg Landsman.
I'm Mark Veasey.
And we've got Mike Levin here, a member of Congress from the 49th District in California. We're going to talk about the reconciliation bill, ICE, detention centers, corruption, and the Congressional Baseball Game. We've got a little quiz for you on baseball.
I'm ready.
Okay. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. So, Mike, tell us something about yourself that viewers don't know about you. We want to know something about you that no one can find on Google.
Well, for one, I live with two very good guys here in D.C., with Jared Huffman and with Greg Stanton. So when I was looking around, trying to figure out where I was going to live as part of this whole experience in D.C., which is actually a pretty significant decision, Jared Huffman had campaigned for me. He's a member from Northern California. And I said, where do you live in D.C.? And he said he'd bought a place near Capitol Hill, and his two roommates were Beto O'Rourke and Dan Kildee. And so when I was hoping that Beto was going to win against Ted Cruz back then, when Ted Cruz wound up winning, I wanted Beto's room. So I wound up moving in with Jared, and eventually Greg Stanton, when Kildee moved out, Stanton moved in, and the three of us have, they're really good guys. They're, I think really good influences, hopefully. We're all good influences on one another. But I think if people saw, we're just human beings like everybody else, and who you live with is really important.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Do you have roommates?
I don't. I've always been solo.
Same.
I'm not into the roommate deal.
I can't do it.
Yeah, nah.
How many members have roommates? Do you think most, Mike?
I think a lot do, just because it's so expensive to live here.
Does Huffman sing for you before you go to bed at night?
Only no, never.
Jared sings?
But
Is he known for singing. He's known for being an atheist.
He is.
But
secular
does he also
humanist. Secular humanist.
Secular humanist, but he also sings.
He is a very good artist.
He's a really good
Really?
guitar
Like,
player.
Did he record?
I don't think
He's not a
recorded,
recording artist, but
he is. He does stage performance.
So there is a
wow.
band with him and Morgan McGarvey and Darren Soto and Sean Caston, and they call themselves the Grateful Dads.
Yeah.
So the Grateful Dead.
That's funny.
And they have done a few concerts here and there.
And before that, he would
true
sing
story.
with Crowley.
Does he have his guitar here though?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
And does he
does.
play?
all the time.
Just not at night.
All the time.
Not for you.
Not for me.
Not to go to sleep. If you had to pick a roommate, who besides me?
Oh wow! If I had to pick a roommate, who would it be?
Morgan McGarvey. You mentioned Morgan. I almost lived with Morgan once.
He lives with Garcia, doesn't he?
He lives with
Robert.
Garcia.
Yeah.
I really can't. I go home. I check in with my wife and kids, and then I just unplug. I can't. I'm done with other human beings.
Yeah.
If I were picking a roommate, I don't know. This might not be good to say. Maybe Sarah Jacobs, because it would
There
be
you go.
a nice place, right? And that, you'd be living large.
Wait, does
Yeah.
Jared have a nice place?
It's fine. It's
fine.
good.
It's
It's good. It's
convenient.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no good transition to the second reconciliation bill that we're going to have to vote on this week. It's another $70 billion for ICE. That's on top of the $170 billion that they got for ICE in the first reconciliation. So that's $240 billion. Now, to put it in perspective, if you look at every country's investment in their defense, this is more than every other country spends on defense except for the United States and China at $240 billion going to ICE. That includes Russia. I mean, every nation, but Russia spends 190, and they're in the midst of a war, right? And so, it does raise the question, why are we spending all of this money on ICE and these massive detention centers? I suspect there's an enormous amount of corruption because the people who are getting these contracts are more than likely going to be big Trump donors. But you have been visiting these detention centers in Southern California. Let's start there. I mean, what has your experience been like, and what's your take on this second reconciliation?
Well, it's insane to spend this much money when you have a full lack of accountability, an agency that really is out of control in many ways. It was out of control under Kristi Noem. I think it's still out of control under Mark Wayne Mullen. And the reality of the situation is that In our area, in Southern California, you've got Core Civic and Geo Group that are running these facilities. There was, for a period of time, the belief that ICE would, build these or buy these huge warehouses, these huge open warehouses, and they would supplant some of the Core Civic and Geo Group. But that's not happening. So in visiting these places, I will tell you that we need more oversight, not less, and that oversight needs to come not just from Congress, but it needs to come from internally. And what Republicans have done that isn't making enough news is they've gutted the internal oversight. So back in 2019, when I first got to Congress, we created basically an internal inspector general to oversee all these different facilities as part of a bipartisan deal that we did all the way back then. And that's been gutted under the Trump administration, under the second Trump administration. So the Civil Rights Office of the DOJ, that's been gutted. So what does that leave? It leaves Congress. And then we try to do our oversight. We try to go and inspect these facilities whenever we can, whether in Texas or Arizona or California. And we've been able to do that, but we've had to announce that we were going. And what that has meant is that, and what you hear, the feedback that you hear, is that what we are seeing as members of Congress isn't necessarily what those detainees are experiencing day in and day out. That places are being cleaned up, and look, if it means that they're being cleaned up, then I'm going to keep going, right? But the real thing would be to be able to go unannounced. So we fought for that right, and we had a lawsuit. Members of Congress engaged in for that right, and we won that right to go in unannounced.
This was just a couple months ago.
Just a couple months ago. And so the first visit unannounced, part of why you go to these places is to see the facilities themselves, to eat the food, drink the water, make sure that it's clean, see the medical care. But the second is you got to go talk to people. You have to go and speak with the detainees themselves to see what their experience is like. And you can't do that pre-planned, because if the ICE folks know who you're going to speak to, they may have gotten to that person in advance to tell them what to say or tell them what they can't say. So being able to go in and speak off the cuff is really important. So I went in, Sarah Jacobs, you brought up Sarah, we went in, she and I, to Otay Mesa, which is right on the Mexican border in South San Diego. And, we looked around, we saw the facilities, we had the food, the water, the whole thing. And then we said, now we'd like to speak with detainees. And we were told, here's a memo. And it was dated that day from the acting ICE director. And it said that I needed that any member of Congress needed a 2-day notice to be able to speak to a detainee. We had to list who the detainee was. We had to get the privacy waiver all buttoned up and signed 2 days before. So what's the point of winning this right to do unannounced oversight if when you get in there and you want to have an off-the-cuff conversation with one of the detainees, you can't do it?
If they're not if there's nothing to hide, if they're not doing anything wrong, why make it so difficult for members of Congress to visit these facilities without an appointment and talk to whoever they want?
Mostly because they're being assholes. But what is the official answer?
Oh, I think you answered your own question.
I don't think it's just because they're being assholes. I mean, I think
if there's something to hide,
they
wouldn't do
it. Something to hide.
So they claim it's inconvenient and it's it's difficult for them to do things where Congress comes in unannounced and they ask to speak with detainees unannounced, that it inconveniences them. That's, if you read the memo, that's literally what it says. And the reality of the situation, though, is we have to assert this right more than ever before. We have to continue to litigate it. We have to continue to communicate about it, because, as I said previously, all the internal oversight over what they're doing at ICE, that's been gutted by the Trump administration, leaving the external oversight, that means us, as the only oversight that's left. And of course, our Republican colleagues have no interest in doing any oversight over the administration at all, but specifically any administration over ICE for whatever reason. And I would like to think that Republicans would want to see the truth about what's happening in those facilities just like we would, because there are American citizens that have been impacted by this. There have been families that have been separated, of course. There have been people who have been inhumanely treated. There's no question about it. And the reality is, the latest is the administration doesn't want to have to report deaths after people have been to those facilities and leave and die. They don't even want to have to report that. So rather than try to have some common sense guardrails, what are the Republicans doing? Asking for more money. Yeah. And historically,
$70 billion. It's just such an outrageous. I mean, over $200 billion for this one thing.
Yeah.
When You've got schools that need funding, you got cops that need funding, you got firefighters that need funding. They cut
Healthcare.
$1 trillion in healthcare. They've run up these huge deficits. They've added trillions to the debt, and they're going to spend, again, more than most countries spend on their defense on detention and deportation issues, which is not what the American people asked for.
So another thing is, obviously in appropriations, we've got the Homeland Security bill every year. And last year we were not able to come to an agreement, and it wound up being a long shutdown. And eventually they had to fund ICE through this reconciliation process instead of through the normal appropriations process. We're going through the same challenges this year. And what we have said is so simple. The guardrails we want, all we want is judicial warrants rather than ICE being able to knock down any door they want because they say so. We want for there to be some sort of ID requirement for the agents, and we want for them to
a badge number.
Could be a badge number, and for them to avoid sensitive locations, schools, churches, polling places, and hospitals.
By the way, I think
Right.
those are all 80-20 issues. I bet you 70-30,
And so
80-20.
so do most of the Republicans behind closed doors.
Correct.
And we were working on it, and we were close. Even Tom Homan wrote a letter saying that he was for some of those reforms. And then
I remember the letter.
Then it went over to Stephen Miller down the street, and he killed the whole thing. And that's why we're still in the mess that we're in.
Awful person. He is a terrible human being.
Not a good guy.
I would agree with that.
Before we move on, it should be noted that in the bill that's being voted on, that will likely pass, there is no prohibition for money being used for the ballroom, and no prohibition for money being used for this fund to pay off January 6th insurrectionists.
Well, it's disgraceful, and you said it well before, where they have money for those things. Evidently, they've got tens of billions of dollars for hundreds of billions for ICE, and they may have money for the ballroom and for the weaponization fund, the January 6th weaponization fund, but they don't have enough money for health care. They don't have enough money to take care of our vets. It's disgraceful. Their priorities are completely misaligned with what most people's lived experiences are every day. And, as I see it, rank and file members behind closed doors know that things are really out of whack. The question in this moment is whether they're willing to stand up and do anything about it. And that's what we're living with every day.
Part of this is the issue of corruption. I mean, again, there's going to be a lot of people very close to Trump who are going to get some, if not a lot, of this money. I mean, millions, if not billions of dollars will go into the pockets of people who have spent a lot of money on President Trump. And I believe that this will go down as the most corrupt administration ever. So I want to list a couple of things that have happened recently. All right. President Trump, it was reported recently that President Trump made 3,700 individual stock trades. That is $220 million in financial transactions. This is where it gets really problematic. You can take a bunch of these and connect it back to his job and things he did. So, for example, he invested $680,000 in Eli Lilly as the administration was pushing their drugs and inflating their stock value.
Shady.
Very. Trump also purchased more than $1 million in Dell stock in February, right before the Pentagon announced a $9.7 billion contract to Dell.
Super shady.
Very shady. Then you got Eric and Don running around raking in, hundreds of millions of dollars. By the way, including military contracts that are associated with the Iran war. A critical minerals company got a $620 million loan from this government that went, I believe, to Don Jr.
Shady.
The ballroom. Don't forget about the
you
ballroom.
Got the ballroom. There's so many. You got the crypto coin. You got MAGA Inc., which is his leadership PAC or whatever, the super PAC, which sounds like a mob thing. You got the businesses. You got the stocks. It doesn't end. Some reporting suggests that he's now worth $10 billion more than he was 18 months ago. You are leading on this. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Please tell us what
Well,
you're doing.
we just, everybody, I think, has to stand up and speak out in a way we never have. This is the most corrupt administration in history. It's not close at this point. I hear Warren Harding was pretty bad, but
Grant
there you
wasn't
go.
great.
This is nothing.
Yeah.
Historically, there is no parallel to what we are seeing. In Congress, as you know, we've got a lot of different voices, and we've got a lot of different efforts out there. I felt that it was important to have a group that spanned the ideological spectrum of the House Democrats come together and say enough is enough. And we have to stand up against this corruption in all its forms. We have to have a platform, a legislative agenda to deal with it if we are so fortunate to have the opportunities, or when we're so fortunate to have the opportunities in the years ahead and we have those gavels. It's not enough just to investigate. We also have to make sure that we put in the guardrails, we put up the scaffolding to prevent another situation like this in the years and the decades ahead. So myself, along with our friends Jason Crow from Colorado and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York, we started the End Corruption Caucus a couple weeks ago, and I hope that we get both of your names as part of the caucus.
Well, I'm on it.
Fantastic.
We did it immediately.
Excellent.
We're announcing a bill tomorrow called "Drain the Swamp." It's like a
Excellent.
So I'm all in. I agree with you that we all have to be doing everything legislatively,
Absolutely,
message-wise, to convince people that this is one of the reasons why their lives aren't what they would like.
Yep.
This is one of the reasons why they're dealing with the economic pain.
Yep.
And why they're seeing hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars that was theirs, tax dollars, going to a bunch of bullshit.
Well, listen, either we will end the corruption or the corruption will be the end of us in this country.
What do you think it says about the state of the country that we're in right now, that he can be so blatant? I mean, this is almost like an episode of Miami Vice or something.
Some of this is even worse. I mean, what it says is that he's banking on us just becoming numb. Like the ballroom. We talk about the outrageous nature of which he knocked down the east wing of the White House and started building this ballroom. So there was a report that the companies that donated roughly $300 million to this whole ballroom project, they have already gotten $50 billion in government contracts in the 6 months since they pitched in. And there were 17 of these companies, at least, because a lot of the donors, we don't even know who they were. At least 17 of these companies had some sort of pending action before the government. And in many cases, it's gone away. The case, for making the donation has been very clear for these executives. They decided that they could basically buy their way into the Trump administration, get in good graces with the administration, do whatever they want without any oversight or accountability for it. On that $620 million investment, that's even shadier. You said shady. That might be the worst of all. So you all remember Peter Navarro. Remember who he is, right? So Peter Navarro turns out to be an advisor to Trump, but he's also one of Trump Jr.'s closest advisors. Yeah. Trump Jr. has this venture capital fund. He invests in this thing called Vulcan. It's a company out of North Carolina, a little startup company. And when he makes this investment, Navarro then lines it up, and the White House puts pressure on the Department of Defense to give this contract to Vulcan, this small startup company. Overnight, the valuation of Vulcan goes up tenfold, the investment from Don Jr.
And he said he could walk down Park Avenue and shoot people. Fifth Avenue and shoot people. And
I'm sure he could do it in Park.
And both places. all the boroughs.
I mean, the reporting on the Navarro, Don Jr., corruption was pretty, startling in that you now have whistleblowers, people willing to talk at the Pentagon who said, oh, no, we only sent this money because Peter Navarro called us and said, you need to send Don Jr. this money.
So what are they doing? They're trying to eliminate all the whistleblowers. They're trying to make it as difficult as possible, get everybody to sign NDAs so that they won't speak up. And they've killed all the inspector generals all across the federal government. They're putting in loyalists. When you look at Bill Pulte, my God, Bill Pulte, as DNI, give me a break. This man didn't even have a security clearance.
No.
And then you look at Todd Blanche. The only through line between those guys is they are willing to do anything for the mob boss. Yeah. And Trump is unwilling or unable to accept reality. We saw that
Blanche is
time and
scary
again
because he fits that mold that Trump likes. Kind of looks the part. He has that 80s dad kind of look going,
Blanche?
Yeah, he totally
80s
does.
dad? Yeah,
he
you're
does.
right.
He has the 80s dad look. He looks like just a regular guy that can be in the Volvo, go pick up the kids, right? But the dude
will do anything for Trump.
Will do anything for Trump. I guarantee you that they have a plan to pardon Maxwell before he leaves office. I believe that.
Well, one
sure.
other thing about that slush fund, about the January 6th slush fund, the Senate pushed back on that, and that's a good thing. But they left the audit immunity untouched. So Trump is still immune from any IRS audit. And we know, based on public reporting, that he was facing a $100 million fine for over-reporting losses 10 or 15 years ago, and he's getting away scot-free.
Before we get out of here, to tomorrow night's the Congressional Baseball Game. Good luck.
Thank you.
I do go. I love it. Do you go?
Oh, every year.
It's so
I don't
much
miss
fun.
it. I used to play in it before I got old.
You're a young guy.
Yeah.
No, the rule is if you're under 50, you have to play, and if you're under 40, you have to play well.
Yeah.
That's the rule.
I played in the soccer game.
Yeah.
I played
That's-
both quarters.
You don't want to get up early in the morning. That's what I heard.
I would
That's
love
what
to
I heard.
play. I'm just not going to get up
No, man.
to practice at 6 o'clock.
It's
in the
all about
morning.
esprit de corps. Esprit de corps.
What
The
does that
Republican,
mean? I don't know what that means.
we're
It
all
sounds like
together.
I'm tired.
We're together.
But why
You
can't
are
we be,
tired.
Why can't we be together at like 7 o'clock at night?
We do that too.
I used to drive them to practice. We called it the VC bus. I have
Yeah,
my
we
big
miss
Texas
that SUV,
here.
man.
Yeah, I would take these
true.
guys.
Next
We have a
year.
good time.
How many teams are in the MLB right now?
30.
Oh wow, okay.
Wait,
who
did
wa-
you not know that? You seemed like that was.
There's
I didn't know
gonna
it was 30.
Yeah, there'll be expansion eventually.
Okay, next question. Who won the World Series last year?
The Dodgers back to back.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that who you root for? You're
No,
Padres guy?
Padres and
Padres,
Angels.
yeah.
I say the Padres are my favorite major league team, and the Angels are my favorite minor league team.
All right, name two of the teams that have never won a World Series. There are a total of 5.
Well, one is unfortunately the San Diego Padres. They're still waiting. They've been to the World Series twice, though, in '84 and then in the '90s, and hopefully they'll get back there. And Seattle's never won a World Series. Milwaukee's never won a World Series. I think Tampa Bay's never won a World Series. Ooh, I don't know the fifth. I got to name all 5?
Wait, did you? Yeah, you did. Sorry, I got my counting wrong.
Yeah.
Because you
You
said
didn't go
Colorado. You said
Oh, the
Colorado-
Rockies. The Rockies.
Oh,
I
you
didn't say the
Oh,
Rockies.
yeah. Sorry.
Okay, you did.
Yeah, but they at least made the Rockies made the World Series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty good,
That's
man.
pretty good.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Your favorite, even if you don't watch them, you can just it can be someone that you don't remember. Greatest Padre of all time.
Well, I was going to say favorite player of all time is Mr. Padre Tony Gwynn.
I was going to say,
course.
isn't it Tony
Tony
Gwynn
Gwynn.
is the guy?
Yeah,
Gwynn
he's
is
the
the
guy.
man.
He's the guy.
He's the
And
man.
if you ever
Yeah.
make your way to San Diego, we'll go to a game at Petco Park, and they have 394 Ale, which is a really good local beer, which is named after Tony Gwynn's season, 1994, when he hit 394. Closest anybody's made it to 400 in a long, long time.
Since Ted.
He was yeah, exactly, since Williams hit 409.
Wow. Who was from San Diego?
Yes, exactly, exactly.
I remember Tony Gwynn teaching me that as a young kid, you had to be in just incredible shape to play professional sports, except for baseball. Remember, Tony would get like
He was
got a little out of shape at the
Yeah.
end, and he was still just hammering.
So
homers.
here's a fun
that's right.
here's a fun fact. He was an incredible athlete. Okay,
know.
and he
I know.
played basketball in college for San Diego
Okay, but
State.
those last couple years,
He was a little
Not
fat.
in his
That's
best
true.
shape.
But check
he
this
was
out.
still crushing
This
it.
is an amazing stat that you guys can look up. Tony Gwynn hardly ever struck out in Major League Baseball. In fact, he had more assists in college at San Diego State than he had strikeouts in his
Really?
2-decade career in Major League
my
Baseball.
God,
Isn't that incredible?
crazy.
all right, we're gonna leave it there because what an incredible piece of information that we now have.
Out of hand coordination, man. As Pete Rose
Mike-
said, you cannot teach out of hand coordination.
I didn't know Pete said that too.
Yeah.
Learning a lot today. Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you, Craig.
Everyone, thank you for watching. And be sure to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And until we fly in, which is next week, I guess. We're coming back next week.
No,
No, we're out.
No.
Yeah.
We're out?
We're out.
We're out for a while.
We'll see you in a little bit.
All right. Adios.